Hey there, Jim Bauer here from LiveVideoGuitarLessons.com with the practice tip of the day. This one is for the intermediate player, and today I want to continue our discussion on chord coloring. Today we're going to work with inverted chords, and we're going to work with major chords. Over on the website, www.livevideoguitarlessons.com, there are videos over there on coloring chords by adding seconds, fourths, and sixths notes. And today we're going to deal with inverting the chords. And what a chord inversion is, you're kind of disturbing the normal appearance of the notes of a chord, you know, the order they appear in the way you play it. So, like for instance, when you're playing a D chord, the lowest note you want to hear is D. Usually the lowest note you want to hear of any chord is the name of the chord. So the lowest note of a C chord is a C, the lowest note of an F chord is an F. So, but when you invert the chord, you're taking one of the other notes that belong there and you're putting that as the lowest note. And it becomes, it's not your root note, but it becomes kind of a coloration. So for instance, like D, the notes that belong in a D chord are D, F sharp, and A. And what those are, they're the first, D is the first note of a D scale, D major scale, and F sharp is the third note of a D major scale, and A is the fifth note of a D major scale. All your major chords are 1, 3, and 5 of whatever, the major scale of your root note. So anyway, so the common conversion for, inversion for D is you pull the third out. Right now, normally we have it here, and we put that as the lowest thing we hear, and we throw the root note over here, or not the root note, but the third over here, and what it does, it softens the D chord a little bit. It's very, very common. Alright, so let's do them in alphabetical order. Alright, so let's take our A. We'll go back to the beginning of the alphabet. Alright, the notes that belong in an A chord are A, C sharp, and E. The most common chord inversion for A is put the third on the bottom, and by the way, that's usually the case. But so if we put the third on the bottom for an A chord, we play our A chord here, and we catch our third note over here. That's our C sharp. And by the way, this is often used like a bar chord. So like when you want to do B, you kind of slide the whole thing up, and we're not using any open strings there. So this is, instead of A C sharp bass, this becomes B D sharp bass. Okay, well we could also, this isn't my favorite sound, but we could also pull the fifth out of that chord, and that would be the E. And we could just strum all 6 strings, because that would put an E on the bottom. I don't like that sound, and you know, it just sounds like somebody playing an A chord incorrectly when you do that. Because a lot of times when people are learning how to play, they just strum all the strings, and they're hitting strings that shouldn't be there, and it just, I don't know, it's not my favorite sound. I like to put the third on the bottom. Alright, so we just did B. C, the most common inversion for C is with the fifth on the bottom. The fifth note of a C major scale is G. So here's my C chord. So what I do, I need a G note on the bottom, so I put that up there for my G note, and then I pull this down here and replace, you know, the finger I just moved with that. And what it does is this just kind of, the fifths kind of just fatten up the chord. Okay, so and we could put the third on the bottom if you want, but again, it's that open E, and that really just sounds like people playing incorrectly, but I've heard it in songs before. It's been recorded, and you know, people do it. So if you want kind of the more nice sound of that, I tend to, if I have to play a C with an E bass, I tend to just put the high E in there. I just let go of that altogether and just play this part. That sounds a lot nicer to my ear, but use your ear to be the judge. Alright, so let's go to D. Alright, so D, the third note of a D is F sharp. So what people do usually, instead of playing your D this way, you bar across these 3, add this one here, and there's your D chord, and that frees up a finger to play this F sharp over here. You see it a lot, here's my regular D, and you see it on the really low end, and people, well, I shouldn't show it. The correct way is to play it this way. This is a little awkward to get to, but there's my D chord, there's my F sharp. Usually people just play their D, and they throw the thumb over the top and grab the F sharp. that tends to be used not as a chord coloration, but as a transition when you're going from a G chord down to an E minor chord. So you get G chord, and then D, F sharp bass, and then down to E minor. Sorry. To color it, you're going to usually want the one that's a little higher and a little closer to the meat of the chord. All right, so let's jump to E. All right, so E. This one's a little tougher. We could color it with the fifth, which is the B note, which doesn't really change the sound of this chord because it's so big. So all I do is just play my E chord and strum 5 strings instead of 6, and that puts the B note on the bottom. Typical way to do it is put the G sharp note on the bottom, and this takes a little bit of calisthenics with your fingers. You need to play your D in D form. I may have said D, I'm sorry. You need to play your E in D form. So that's here, and that's my fifth. It's kind of a power chord, and hopefully you know your D form bars. It's not really a bar, but it comes from, you know, the power chord here. So there's my E, there's my fifth, and there's another E. Alright, so once you get that down, you can grab your G sharp over here. And what I'm doing, I'm muting my fifth string. And I'm muting my first string. I don't have to for the E, but this is also used as a bar chord, or like a bar chord. So this is E, G sharp bass. But if I move it up one, now it's F, A bass. And this form is very, very common. So even though it's a little bit hard to reach, you need to get used to that. Alright, so let's jump to F. Alright, so F, the three notes that make up an F chord are F, A, and C. The most common way to invert the F chord is to put the fifth on the bottom, the C. So there's my regular F. Put my C on the bottom and replace what I took away. So there's that. Or that's my favorite one. That's the one that's by far the most common. But you could just play A, you know, your A open on the fifth string, and just, you know, strum 5 strings on your F chord instead of 6, and that would give you your F, A bass. Alright, so G, the most common one for G is G, B bass. So here's my G chord, and what you normally do, you just kind of just let go of this one and let that be your bass. There's your, that's your B note, and you just kind of, and that's very common going from C to A minor. So you could also, you know, the other note that would be the bass note for that, or an inverted chord for that, would be the D note, and you just kind of stuck with, you know, just playing the top 4 strings. So you don't need anything over here. You're just playing from your D chord, your D note here. So all right, so that takes us through all the alphabet. And just real quick, catch the sharps and flats. The most common way to invert like an A form bar chord, like let's say we're going to do C sharp, you just throw your, instead of doing bar across 5, you bar across 6. That's your fifth over there. So you just kind of, you know, thicken it up here. Most common way, you know, because you're playing, like let's do F sharp. And by the way, it's the same all the way up the neck for those. If you're doing F sharp, the most common thing to do is to just play, instead of playing 6 strings for your E form bar chord, you play 5 strings, and that puts your fifth on the bottom. So you usually go ahead and leave the bar down, but this is almost never used. I'm just trying to walk through the whole process. So anyway, so it's F sharp, and then there's G sharp, and that puts the fifth on the bottom. So anyway, hopefully that helps. I know this video ran a little long. Hope I didn't lose you there, but I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to walk through all the possibilities, and kind of explain and get you thinking about it. So anyway, thanks for tuning in for this practice tip. Tune in again tomorrow for another one, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.